just want to point out the incredibly bizarre state of the internet where this week, everyone is playing Highguard and then going to Steam to crap all over Highguard. Last week, people were flocking to Metacritic to laud the Nintendo DS game Disney Cory in the House as the greatest game of all time, dethroning Expedition 33 as the best user-voted game.
Yes. Making
copies of this objectively bad game skyrocket in the collector's market, which makes no sense whatsoever. So, all right, so there's a game we should talk about just because it's been an incredibly bizarre journey to launch, which is Highguard. For anybody who does not immediately remember what Highguard is, clearly I haven't been reading the news, but also it was that big, huge one more thing announcement from the Game Awards this year where Jeff Keighley was like, I'm so excited to show you guys this, check it out. Yep. And then it's like a 3v3 raid shooter that's developed by a bunch of ex-Respawn folks who worked on stuff like Apex Legends, and it's free to play, and it just came out, and it's really bizarre because it's got a ton of concurrents playing on Steam, and also everyone's mad at it, which is a bizarre combination of things. And I just, we're at this point where there's such a glut of live service games. There's so many. It's such a weird marketplace where they're all competing for people's attention. If something doesn't have a massive roadmap queued up the second it drops, everyone just loses interest and wanders off. And then occasionally you have these sort of redemption arcs where a game will launch and be in a rough spot, and then it'll sort itself out and become like part of everyone's regular rotation. And it's just, I could not tell you which direction this one is going because it's such a weird mix of reactions and feedback.
Well, I will say first, like moving back a little bit, I find the sort of like marketing promotional release strategy rollout for this game to be utterly fascinating. We are always trying to, figure out like what is the right, once again, the Goldilocks, right? Like what is the right promotional rollout for a video game? And this one, it was the one more thing at a Solid Game Awards. I immediately was like, okay, interesting. Not necessarily the game that I would get into, but the vibe that I got was a different game was supposed to be there and pulled out, and this game showed up. And that's just a conspiracy theory. I have no facts to back that up. But that's sort of the vibe I felt. And then we had heard a couple of weeks ago that, Jeff Keighley kind of notoriously charged, the Game Awards charges people a lot of money to have their game appear in these showcases because you get a lot of eyeballs on it, right? And we had heard that with this one, they opted not to do that. And so basically Jeff Keighley saw the game and was like, yeah, cool, looks great, come on in. And then we didn't hear anything from this game from the night we saw its first trailer to knowing the release date was coming up. And then there was like a preview embargo lifted where IGN and a bunch of other outlets and content creators and influencers and stuff like that went to LA, played the game for a while, came out of it with like pretty positive impressions. And it was like, hey, now the game is out, right? You look at that in contrast to, I don't know, every Rockstar game from the past 15 years, right? Or like even a lot of PlayStation games, or like, finding out there was like a Last of Us multiplayer game that they were working on where it's just a screenshot, or it's like a concept art for 3 years and then it's canceled, right? We're always like trying to figure out what is the right push and pull for something like this. Because the earlier you find out about a game, the more excited you get for it, but the longer you have to wait for it, then it gets delayed and it sucks. And after a while, you're kind of like...
So this one is especially weird because allegedly the reason that it was on the Game Awards is because Keighley just really liked it and he just was really hot on it. He was like, I want to show it off, I want to reveal it. And this is, again, a debut game from an indie studio and they want to get eyes on this thing. But at the same time, they were also talking about how they wanted to shadow drop it. I think they kind of wanted to recreate what happened with Apex Legends, get a bunch of people to go hands-on with it, have them at a preview event, which was basically like Apex kind of just came out of nowhere, but it also came out of nowhere into an industry where there weren't quite so many live service games. There weren't a million battle royales out there. And the hook for this one is that it is sort of a kind of a unique spin on gameplay. Like it's a 3v3 raid thing where everyone runs around and fortifies their little castles and then you go and fight the other guy's castle or whatever. And it was inspired by developers playing Rust, which is very, very different from something like Apex, but it's kind of cool to see them kind of glue these ideas together. What people are mad about predominantly is that it's a 3v3 game. So you got 6 people running around this map and the map is huge. So it's just kind of got long periods of like not a lot happening and then somebody shoots you or whatever. And it's
right.
I think that they're still sort of fine tuning that. And I guess that's the downside to them just sort of launching, as opposed to being like, hey, we're doing a closed alpha, closed beta, we're doing some testing stuff, like letting people get their hands on it and give feedback. But at the same time, you also, I think, need live information to adjust to player complaints. What I'm really interested to see is what happens to this game in 6 months, because one thing they do have is they have an ambitious roadmap. They're like, here's all the stuff we have planned, here's all the stuff we have lined up. People are really negative on it online, and sure, whatever. I mean, I don't really have a dog in this fight. I don't care one way or the other. It's just kind of interesting as a product to see how it's being received. And it's, again, people are being like, oh, it's the next Concord. And it's like, not really, because Concord was, announced with a very expensive CGI hamburger and a great song from the French electro duo Justice. And like, we sat around wondering what this game was for ages. And then they showed it off and they did like a closed beta thing. And then they launched it and then unlaunched it. And it was a what, $50 game. And this one is free. So I don't know, if you want to play it, you can. And that's sort of
I think it launched at what was it, like 40,000 peak concurrents, which I don't remember the numbers on Concord, but whatever they were abysmal, and they yanked that game down within days. It was, I'd never seen anything like that before, ever, period. And so this is like, it's in an interesting spot because we have a review in progress up for this game because we got it, I think, just as everybody else did. And with a game like this, we want to put it through its paces before we don't have a tendency to rush out. And I know it's like, consumers they're like, what is it? Is it 7? Is it 8? Or is it 9? Is it a 5? Before I, spend any money on cosmetics in this thing. We always try to tell people that, like, even with a free-to-play game, your time is a valuable currency. And so we want to make sure we have, our reps in with something like this before we tell the general public, go download it, go spend your time with it. But on the flip side, you have consumer reviews, right? Which everyone who has played the game for 5 minutes or 50 hours is allowed to basically say, this is how I feel about it. And you look at a game like No Man's Sky, which launched to very, very negative consumer reviews, and even Cyberpunk early on, right? No Man's Sky, I think it took them like 10 years before they shifted into positive. And anyone who's downloading that game for the first time right now sees predominantly positive user score on it, and they see, a decade of content and all this other stuff that you can get into. But early on, like, that was that's a red stain very early on to see, like, you open Steam, you open like any game console, and you go to download a game, and there's like, a bunch of really bad reviews next to it. You're going to be hesitant to buy it. And so that's what's interesting. I think you kind of nailed it. Like, had they done like kind of like a early access open beta thing, like, kind of steer the ship together with the community a bit before the game's out there in the wild, then they might be in a better place. Or maybe they're just taking feedback on the fly and, course correcting as fast as they can.
Well,
we just talked about Battlefield doing that,
It's a moving target with all these things.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where having a review, a static review of any kind, whether it be from a member of the press who played it pre-release, or a user who played it for 10 minutes, or somebody who sunk 500 hours into it, regardless of what you said about it or how you feel about it, it's going to be a different game in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, and it's, these guys are like, hey, here's the roadmap. Here's what we have planned for the next year or however long, which is wild. And again, these things take time to fix, and it's, you release something in the wild, you've got all these people who are putting it through its paces and stress testing it in various ways. And I guess I can't tell looking at this or seeing the discourse about this right now, like, is this going to work? Is this going to pan out? Like, I think the question is this Concord or is this Apex? And it's really fascinating, and it's sort of kind of a symptom of a shifting industry and just how strange everything is right now. And ultimately, I want games to succeed. I want the people who make video games to be able to sustain themselves and continue making video games, because then I get to play video games and know that people are able to keep a roof over their heads and, food in their kids' mouths or whatever. And like, I don't know. Again, it's also incredibly risky to be like, hey, we made a game where you can ride a bear and then shoot magic out of a sniper rifle. And oh, by the way, it's free. And people are like, boo, this game. And it's like, all right, man, I don't know. And you know, at the same time,
it's, you know, if people are playing it and they're not enjoying it, it doesn't matter if it's free or $5 or $50. I mean, obviously that does matter, but like if they're sitting there and they're like, this was the promise, this was the pitch, and you're not delivering, like you nailed it, right? Like you can only be a Concord or an Apex when you're a game like this. There's not a lot of room in the middle for something like that. Like you can, if you want to be marginally successful, that's only gonna, like, you're gonna have, you know, diminishing returns on that, because your audience needs to be locked in and hooked, and they need to be checking in on this game every single day. And the second they're not, the second they fall out of that loop, they're probably gone forever. Think about the TV shows that you used to love the first or second season of, but then halfway through the second, like, well, there was all this discourse about Stranger Things recently, right? And I was just like, oh, that's right. Yeah, that show still exists. Because I bailed out on the second season and stopped thinking about it, stopped caring about it. But people spent years invested in it. I did the same thing with Yellow Jackets, where I was like, oh yeah, they made a whole third season of that show, right? Like stuff that at one point I was like obsessed with, and then I just kind of disconnected from. And you're only as good as your last episode, as good as your last season. Like a lot of these games literally do have seasons, right? Like I was on Reddit the other day, and I'm getting fed like Fortnite subreddit stuff, and people are just like, I hate this season. And I was like, oh, I thought it was pretty fun, because I'm playing it for the first time in like 6 years, and I don't know the difference, right? So I think that like you have to figure out a way to keep people constantly engaged. And if you can't, then your game falls off a cliff. It falls out of the top 10. There's no discoverability anymore, because if you go to play a game, then it's not, you know, it's not in the most played games. That's literally how a lot of people find these things, right? Like you're not going to go digging into the trenches of Netflix and HBO to find some obscure show no one's ever heard of. Maybe you are, right? Because you're weird, and I'm going to do that too. But a lot of people are not going to do that. They're just going to see like top 10 most watched today, top 10 most played games on Steam.
Well, it's
right,
it's
and there's nothing wrong with that.
You bring up Fortnite, because looking back at Fortnite, and again, this is something that is not replicatable whatsoever. That game was announced. That was the first game announced running on Unreal Engine 4. It was revealed in something like 2013 with a CG trailer. No, it was 2011. And it was basically like, what if DreamWorks made a Call of Duty movie that was about Minecraft? And people were like, okay, whatever. There's zombies, I guess.
Combination Taco Bell, Pizza Hut.
Pretty much. It looked like just an amalgamation KFC, of things. And it came out, and it was basically Fortnite Save the World, this whole tower defense thing. It came out, I want to say it was like $30 or something, like it was sort of budget priced, and we all kind of looked at it and we were like, okay, people. Well,
I told this story a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Like I like Donald Mustard came to the IGN offices and showed us a preview build, and I was kind of like, cool, man, good luck. Yeah, like, you know, I was like, I don't know who this is for, but hope it finds its audience.
Yeah, and then a few weeks or months later, they were like, oh, and by the way, we made a battle royale mode, you know, like that hit PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds game that everyone's crazy about. And oh, by the way, this one is free to play. And oh, by the way, this is all cross-platform. And it blew the hell up, and it became this biggest thing in gaming, period, the biggest thing on the planet. And
I was in a meeting with you yesterday, and I was like, hey, they put one of the Ed, and Eddie guys in this game, and you're like, what?
I like how the discourse around that, everyone's pissed off. They put Ed from Ed, and Eddie, the first Ed, Big Ed.
Yeah.
But they don't have Ed, was it Eddie or Ed with two D's, double D, whatever he's called. And everyone's mad because they're like, look, I play with my friends. Why is there just one guy? I want to play with the other two. I want my friends to be the other two. That's the whole point. They're like, yeah, they did this with, you know, they did this with the South,
okay, like
Park
your
kids.
Ass wouldn't be. You and I would be texting each other in all caps if they only put Beavis and not Beavis and Butthead in this game. So please,
that is comparable. No, I'm saying that makes perfect sense.
You would be justifiably so pissed.
Again, also, Ed, and Eddie, I haven't thought about that game in like 15 years, and they're just like, anyway, it's also great show. Love that show. But like, again, they were just like, great news. Ed from Ed, and Eddie is buttered toast, everybody. Like, we're gonna drop these guys in there. I didn't know anyone cared. Like, I don't know. It's a whole weird thing. But again, if you went back to, I don't know, the week that Fortnite came out, and you were like, hey, huge thing. In 14 years from now, or however long it is, 9 years, they're going to be adding Ed from Ed, and Eddie, but not Ed and Eddie, just the first Ed, and also the guys from The Office, the American version of The Office. Yep. You know, Steve Carell and the other guy, Dwight Schrute, whatever, and yeah, that's not going to be the weirdest thing they have added to that game. And I'm gonna be like, I'm sorry,
Dude,
can you back up for a second? We're talking about Fortnite, the game that looks like DreamWorks Minecraft Call of Duty Plants vs. Zombies Tower Defense. Is that what we're talking about?
That's you and I were we were talking the other day about how we, without even syncing this up, because we were both dropped on our heads in the same spot, we both play that game as a xenomorph wearing Marty McFly's shoes from Back to the Future. And it's like, and we were like, well, what kind of backpack do you have? But it's like, I'll open that game at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'll look at the store, and it'll be like, guess who's here? It's Jack Sparrow. And the next day you open the store and it's like, guess who's here? It's Kim Kardashian. And you're like, okay. And then they're like, it's Dexter from the hit show
Noam
Dexter.
Chomsky. Like, what are we doing?
You're like, what is happening in here?
Yeah. No,
so I guess that's what these guys need to do, right?
I don't know. It is also very weird that we're also, I want to specify it was two different xenomorphs. You had the alien Earth one, and I have like the old school cartoony one, whatever.
Mine's like the muddy one.
Yeah. That's just really, that was weird. It's really weird. Yeah, that was all a very long-winded way of saying that I have no idea what's going on with Highguard, and it's kind of interesting to watch. I don't particularly care about playing the game, but I am fascinated in seeing how this evolves, how this all shifts and everything.
Same.
There's a bunch of interesting sort of think pieces out there, people writing stuff. Nathan Grayson over at Aftermath wrote a great breakdown about sort of how this is symptomatic of just internet culture as a whole, and how people were ready to tear this game apart the second it got revealed because it wasn't the one more thing they were hoping it was. And I don't know, it looks like you just dumped a bunch of video game elements into a big bucket and shook it up, and in some instances that's good and that's great, and a lot of people are enjoying this gameplay loop. And you have to play a game to know if you like it. That's the weird thing about video games, isn't it? And I don't know, this is a free game to play. And will enough people be like, yeah, I'll give it a shot, even if I don't think it looks interesting, and then get hooked in this feedback loop? Or will the devs manage to keep, adding stuff and tweaking stuff and supporting things and adding one more little thing to keep people interested?
Find out next week on Highguard.
We'll find out, yeah. Highguard.
I don't know if you're playing it and you like it or you don't like it. Let us know in the comments. I'm fascinated, just like Max said, just to see how this pans out, because this was Sony's whole thing for a really long time, and I think we're on the outside of it now, or the tail end of it, or it's kind of in the rear view. Was all systems go on live service games, right? They put almost every one of their studios on one of these things, and there was a lot of failures and not a ton of successes. And we were talking before about, like, you look at a game like Destiny. I never got into it, but there are people who were obsessed with it for years, and then they'll tell you that like one season came out and they hated it and they never went back to it since. Like, you can't just be pretty good at the gate. You have to be pretty good for really
Dude, I was so hyped for Destiny going into it, and then I played it when it first came out. I played like the beta, and then I played again the full version, and I was like, this is just the same thing I already did. I just ran around the same field and shot a bunch of dudes who looked like General Grievous or whatever. And then I kind of walked away, and a bunch of people stuck with it, and they were like, oh no, the first update, you got to do the raid, you got to do all this stuff. And it was like, I'm doing something else. Like, I kind of, it's not like I missed the bus. It's like I got onto the bus early and then got off the bus and then the bus left. It's kind of a weird situation. So I don't know. Highguard is out. Check it out if you want, I suppose. I just want to point out the incredibly bizarre state of the internet, where this week everyone is playing Highguard and then going to Steam to crap all over Highguard. Last week, people were flocking to Metacritic to laud the Nintendo DS game Disney Cory in the House as the greatest game of all time, dethroning Expedition 33 as the best user-voted game.
Yes.
Making copies of this objectively bad game skyrocket in the collector's market, which makes no sense whatsoever. So I guess now people can play a video game instead of doing that. Whatever. It's just, it's a weird time to play video games.
The internet. It's basically impossible to track, and that's the only thing good about it.
Yep. Well,
there he is.
Brian, thank you for hanging out. This was a good time. There is that Cory. He sure is in the house. Actually, if you look closely at the box art, you can clearly see he's outside the house. He's standing in the yard, I believe. The house is in the background. He's outside. So false advertising.
The scale on that is weird too. Like, the people behind him are either gigantic or he's big. You
think he was supposed to be standing back there and he just like ran up to the camera to just startle the photographer?
Well, he got past the fence, right? But you don't see it's not like Cory in that he's standing in front of the fence in front of the White House. Like he's on the lawn.
Did you know that people like
he's there.
The White House used to be like basically unguarded, and people could just go up and like knock on the door and be like, I want to talk to the president. Is he home? Like, that's a real thing. People would just be like,
what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, the president would go for a walk. People would be like, hey man, can I talk to you for a second? They were like, oh yeah, sure, I'm just here for my morning constitutional. They didn't have like fences out there. It was just like it was like a regular ass house. Anyway, history, everybody, it's wild.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip from Beyond, IGN's weekly PlayStation show. You can find the full episode over on youtube.com/IGN Games. And don't forget, new episodes of Beyond drop every Wednesday on IGN.com, the IGN Games YouTube, and all your favorite podcast platforms. Thanks again for watching, and as always, Beyond.